You are LockedOn Braves POSTCAST, part of LockedOn Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Braves Postcast. I'm Grant McAuley. He's Jake Mastroianni. This is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And for the Braves, a road trip which began with such promise, such excitement, such, dare I say, hype for this Atlanta Braves club. It ended with a bit of a whimper with losing 2 out of 3 to the St. Louis Cardinals and the back-to-back losses in the second game of the doubleheader and the one game they made up with the Chicago White Sox, which might be one of the more frustrating losses of the season. We're going to get into all the reasons why, touch on a little bit more of the road trip, and of course get you set up for the homestand that's in front of the Braves, which will begin with the Pirates, have a very exciting pitching matchup over the weekend, then the Giants, and then finally the Philadelphia Phillies are going to roll into town. So a lot of things are happening as we will turn the page to the month of July. Before we get started to all of that, though, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube, subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts, and of course, today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right way to make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. Jake, the Braves could have used Booking.com because they went to 3 different cities over the course of playing the 7 games on this road trip. It started out great with the Yankees. I know you and I didn't get to catch up on that over the weekend, but that was a good start. The St. Louis series, it really felt like that finale could have gone either way. The Braves just couldn't find the big hit and just couldn't keep the Cardinals down. But a 1-0 loss to the White Sox in the finale of all of it, that was a cherry on top of a you-know-what Sunday that the Braves very much did not order.
They did not, and it's disappointing because you had so much momentum, as you said at the top, after that homestand, and then you win a big series on the road against the Yankees, and you're thinking, okay, here maybe this Braves team is back. And then you drop 2 out of 3 to St. Louis. I know the Cardinals are playing better, but still, it's a team you should beat. And you had a couple of games there, besides the one you won, where you felt like you could have. But this game on Thursday, we've talked about it. The Braves' offense has set some lows this year, and I know we'll get into it. But to not be able to get a single run against the White Sox bullpen, that to me is the lowest point of this Brave season, and one that's had many low points, unfortunately, for this offense.
I mean, 5 Chicago relievers went up against Chris Sale, who was, I think, at his best once again. I mean, he made one mistake, and unfortunately, that mistake left the ballpark. But you can't pin this loss on Chris Sale. I know he gets it, and it goes on his stat line, and that's fine. And that's another reason why that pitchers' won-loss records are not really a great indicator of who exactly might be responsible for how a given game has gone. And it is a team sport, certainly. When you don't score, I've heard it's very hard to win games, and it did feel like, Jake, that the Braves, who had made such progress over the last couple of weeks, we've seen home runs starting to fly again. Some pieces of the offense seem to really started to have found themselves. This kind of felt like they just woke up in the middle of that May malaise that they were in for so long. 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position, 7 men left on base. I know that's not a ton of opportunities. There was one very frustrating loud out from Marcell Ozuna in the 8th inning, but otherwise, there was just not a lot for the Braves offense on this day. And is just one of those frustrations that you were hoping will be behind you. And maybe it still is. I don't want to overreact to, one bad game here or a couple of bad games here, but certainly frustrating when this is how your road trip ends. And it's the difference in having a winning or a losing trip in these 7 games.
Yeah, and it is because we're all looking for signs for this offense to break out. We're all looking for signs that these baseballs are going to start traveling the way that we think that they should. But either way, you got to find ways to score runs, and this team just wasn't able to do it on Thursday and weren't able to do it in a couple of games in St. Louis. And look, there's 2 really good swings in this game. You really want to look at it. There were maybe 3 or 4 good swings by both teams combined in this game. There wasn't a lot of good offense on either side. And it's just unfortunate. Austin Riley struck one that I thought maybe had a chance to go, at least would be a double in the gap. And Luis Robert, easily tracks it down in left center field gap. Marcell Ozuna in a big spot laces one that I think, again, is either a 3-run homer or it's off the wall, and it gets caught by the right fielder. But, those are your 2 best swings of the day, and it was unfortunate outs, but you got to have more than that throughout 9 innings, and it's just the at-bats weren't there. The quality of at-bats weren't there. Maybe the best of it, those are the 2 best swings of the day by far for the Braves. Maybe the other good at-bat outside of that was a Jared Kelenic walk that he had there in the 8th inning. He took some really good pitches. He's obviously been great lately. But just not a lot of quality at-bats up and down the lineup. And again, it's you focus so much on those good swings that didn't result in hits, but it's because you had so many bad at-bats in between those that when you don't get good results off of those very few good swings that you have, they just stick out a lot more. But overall, it was not a good performance by this offense. Again, against a White Sox bullpen, it's as frustrating as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, a White Sox bullpen, including Jared Schuster, who I know that there were a lot of high hopes for in Braves country, and here and there he showed you a little bit of something, but not enough for Atlanta to feel like he was part of their plans. He was part of the big trade, 5-for-1, I believe it was, for Aaron Bummer, when the Braves took essentially everybody that they were going to non-tender and just sent them to the Chicago White Sox. And that in and of itself shouldn't be any more frustrating than anybody else who pitched for the White Sox on this day, but it always seems to carry a little bit of extra weight. 3 shutout innings from Jared Schuster in the midst of all of this. But, again, and I want to go back to Chris Sale because I don't want to get this lost or have this be completely lost and just talking about what the offense didn't do on this day, though we're going to do a lot of that. I have to tell you, just based on the rundown that I have created. But Sale's 7 innings of 1-run ball, 11 strikeouts, and a return to Chicago for him, where they had to feel like, the fans that were there, this was the Chris Sale that they knew and loved for a number of years. But he's been terrific this year, and I just felt like if we're going to talk about the whole game, we might as well talk about the little bit of positive you can take away from it. And Chris Sale has been that about every 5th or 6th day.
Yeah. And that extra rest, I mean, it's key because I thought he was done after 6 innings, but I love the fact you send back out there for a 7th, and having that extra day of rest, I think allows you to do that. And he's been outstanding. I know we want to talk about some positive here, but it just brings back some of that frustration that you have Chris Sale on the mound going up against the White Sox bullpen. I know baseball doesn't work the way that it should all the times, but that's a game on paper.
Yeah,
it's got to be a win. But Chris Sale did his part. You mentioned he made it. It wasn't even really a mistake to release Robert. It was a really good slider down and in. It's just their best player made a really good swing on a ball that he was just able to keep fair. And that just happened to be the ball game. It's just because the Braves couldn't get anything going. But I mean, Chris Sale, just what an outstanding performance that he gave in this one, racking up the strikeouts, 85.1 mile per hour average exit velocity. And like I said, there wasn't a lot of good contact by either team in this game.
Right.
Racking up the whiffs, the 15 whiffs, all that. So he's been outstanding all year. I mean, should be an all-star. It's just been an amazing, comeback, bounce back, whatever you want to call it for Chris Sale this year for the Braves.
Yeah, I mean, return to form, if we're being honest. And Chris Sale's return to form couldn't have come at a better time for a rotation that obviously lost its ace after just 2 starts and really needed him to be the Chris Sale of old, and he's been exactly that. Talking a little bit about this offense, though, I think that we really have to kind of circle one player in particular. And I know there are other guys who've been struggling, and sure, we can find some time to talk about some of the others, and I know we have. And, Adam Duvall, the last really 26 games for him. And I know that the first probably 25 or 26 games for him weren't so great either, but just 1 home run for a guy who is meant to provide some power, has been streaky in the past, but the streak that he's on right now, this downward spiral, has been a really rough one to watch, and it has hurt the Braves in a few different positions and a few different times. 92 at-bats over his last 26 games, Jake, just the 1 home run. He's batting 120 with 35 punch-outs over that stretch. And then you look at his struggles against righties, against whom he's 9 for 99 this year with a sub-100 batting average, a sub-250 OPS, the worst against any, I think, qualified or even close to qualified hitter against righties this year. Worst mark in the majors. I guess I say all that to say, I feel like Adam Duvall can find himself. He can turn things around. He can go on a hot streak. We've seen that all in the past. But right now, he has pretty much shown you that he is having a hard time at the very least against right-handed pitchers. So while I know it's still a righty-righty matchup, why in the world is Ramon Laureano not maybe getting a few more bats? Or is this maybe the tipping point to where we see that Laureano could and should get more opportunity?
I mean, I think he definitely should. We know how loyal that Brian Snitker is to his players, and especially a guy in Adam Duvall who's been there. He's done that. He's come through in the past. He's going to give him as much possible time as he can to figure this thing out. But when you got an offense that can't score a run against the White Sox, and you got a guy that's struggling as bad as Adam Duvall is, and I get it's a, you had a lefty out there, you want to get him those at bats against lefties, but it's just, you got to give somebody else an opportunity. And the options aren't great. Look, you lose Acuna, you lose Michael Harris. There's not some great option that the Braves have right now. They can come in and replace Adam Duvall, but the bats are just terrible. I mean, I just don't have much confidence in him, and I hate it because we all love Adam Duvall. We love the person. We love the player that he's been for the Braves in the past, but it's hard to watch right now. He looks completely lost. He looks completely frustrated. I know he talked about it the other day. The baseballs just aren't doing what they're supposed to do for him. And this is a guy that is built on power. And you look at it in an 11.6% barrel rate. When he is making contact, he's still barreling up a lot of baseballs. He's just not getting the results that he typically does, for whatever reason. I'm not trying to go down the conspiracy theories here, but just baseballs aren't flying like they normally do. I mean, there's numbers out there. There's data to prove that. Yeah. And I think Adam Duvall is really getting hurt by it because home runs, power are the one thing that he does really well. And that's kind of been diminished at this point. And now you're just seeing a frustrated Adam Duvall who just doesn't look like himself in the plate.
No, he doesn't. And let me just say, and I've known Adam Duvall for a number of years since he was traded over here in 2018. You will not find a better, more solid teammate than Duvall. And that's a big part of the piece that he is to fit the puzzle that the Braves are putting together. You look at the track record, some of the things he's done for Atlanta, not just in 2021, but some of the other big home runs that he's provided, big runs knocked in. I mean, this is a guy who is, I would say, the ultimate teammate, and you hate to see him struggling in this way. And there is some bad batted ball luck in there, most certainly. It's just hard to look at these numbers and not think, at least for a little while, maybe mixing things up a bit more. But you're right. Brian Snitker's absolutely going to give guys opportunity. You're also correct that with a lefty starting, it makes sense to give Duvall those at-bats because he's not struggling so much against lefties, but he is just overall, righties or lefties, going through it over about the last month. Again, just the one home run and batting 120 dating back to the late part of the month of May. We're going to stick a pin in that. We got a lot more to talk about, including the Braves offense, more about Chris Sale, and looking ahead to the big homestand the Braves are going to get started very soon. But before we do that, we got to take a break, but we'll be back on the Braves podcast for all that and more. Here on the Locked On Braves postcast, we pride ourselves in getting you the latest news for your team. Whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs, it comes your way year-round. And you know what else is year-round? It's collection season. Because tax season is over does not mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Get licensed professionals and tax experts from Tax Network USA to go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and A-plus rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season that will help you or that you need help correctly filing, call the good folks over at Tax Network USA, 1-800-549-1000, or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts that you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home those huge wins. Head on over to ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Well, Jake, let's take a look at the line score and the box score for today's unfortunate game against the Chicago White Sox. The Braves with that 1-0 loss. Only 3 hits on the day for Atlanta. Did draw 5 walks, so there were some base runners out there, but shut out on the 3 hits, left 7 men, and the Braves dropped to 44-35 on the season. The White Sox, a 1 run in the first inning on the Luis Robert homer, 1 run, 4 hits, 1 error for the Sox. They left just 2 men on base. That should let you know exactly how good Chris Sale was in this game, but he takes a loss, drops to 10-3. Jared Schuster picks up the win. He is now 1-0. Michael Kopech is 6th save of the season. A great outing for Chris Sale. I know we talked about this briefly just a moment ago, but I want to bring it back up just to kind of underscore exactly how great he has been for this Braves team. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 run on the Robert homer, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts. Sale dropped his ERA to 2.79 in the toughest of tough luck losses we may see for any Braves starter this year. Chicago used the 5 pitchers on the other side, as we mentioned, but Chris Sale just continues to do what he has done for the Atlanta Braves, and they're glad that he has. And you brought up something earlier that I think was pretty on point, as many things that we talk about here on the show are. All-Star Chris Sale has a certain ring to it, and I'd be surprised if that's not the case here in a few weeks. Yeah,
Braves sent, I think 8 position players or 8 players to the All-Star game last year, and this year might not see any except for Marcell Ozuna, but you should see several pitchers on the Braves side. Chris Sale should be among them. What he has done this year, I mean, it's just again, we say it with Ozuna on offense. I think you say it with Sale on the pitching side of things. Don't know where this team would be without him.
Yep.
Especially after you lose Spencer Strider, you lose the guy at the top of your rotation, and Chris Sale, comes in and pitches like an ace and pitches like, a dominant version of himself. 11 strikeouts today, another double-digit strikeout performance for him. It's great. I mean, again, we're running out of words to say about him as much as we get tired of talking about how bad the offenses have been. I would much rather run out of great words to say about Chris Sale and how amazing he's been. You look at it, 15 whiffs on this one, and you spread it out, 4 on the slider, 4 on the four seam, 5 on the changeup, 2 on the sinker. I mean, you don't really have to see him go to that sinker too much. And this was an all right-handed lineup. They stacked the lineup against him. So you didn't have any lefties in this one either. And he still was able to have a dominant performance like that. 15 whiffs, 17 called strikes. And I mentioned earlier, 85.1 mile per hour average exit velocity against, outside of, really the Robert swing. Andrew Vaughn had a good swing as well against him. There weren't many good swings at all from either side, but definitely not from the White Sox part of things. Unfortunate that one pitch to Robert, in the first inning, was able to sneak it inside the foul line on, again, a good slider down and in. But just Chris Sale, what he's done for the Braves this year, continues to do. It's been huge for this Braves team. They needed every bit of it. Unfortunately, they needed him to be perfect today to even have a chance to win. But who's to say the Braves were ever going to score a run on this day? So maybe it didn't matter in the end. But he certainly did everything that he could to try to help the Braves get a win.
Oh, you like your chances for the Braves to eventually score at least one run more times than not, or at least you did coming into this year, as Atlanta was once again shut out. That's something that we did not say very many times at all a year ago. In fact, I don't believe we said it at all a year ago, but it's happened multiple times this season. On Chris Sale, 11 strikeouts on this day, is now 5th in Major League Baseball with 118 punch-outs. Leader, of course, in the majors is Tyler Glasnow. Sale is 3rd in the National League. Dylan Cease, another former White Sox, is up there with 125 strikeouts on the season. But Sale is doing it with, I think, an efficiency, Jake, that is just beyond what most strikeout pitchers typically do. He doesn't walk anybody, basically. Once in a while, there's a Chris Sale walk, but he is sporting, I believe, a 9 or 10 strikeouts to walks ratio, something in that ballpark anyway, which is an absurd number for a power pitcher, strikeout pitcher like Chris Sale.
It is, again, and he had one walk today, and you could see the visible frustration from him whenever he did issue that walk, because it's not something he does, and that's not something typically that we see from a strikeout pitcher like him. But he just does a great job of keeping his pitch count down, throwing strikes, working ahead, and that's just what we've come to see from Chris Sale. And this one, and in this game in particular, he gave up, a leadoff single in the 3rd. He gave up a leadoff single in the 4th, a leadoff walk in the 5th that I just mentioned a minute ago. But he immediately picked that guy off. He's able to work around, what little traffic that he had on this day. And it's just, he does all the little things that you want from, a top of the rotation pitcher. I mean, when you're looking at guys that you want to lead a rotation, you want guys with a strikeout rate over 30% and a walk rate under, at least 8, and he's well below that. So, I mean, he is checking off all those boxes for somebody that you want to go out there and, can give you some innings. Like I said, I thought he was done after 6. I thought he had done a good job, certainly. And he goes back out there for that 7th inning, has a clean inning, saves the bullpen a little bit more, and puts up another 0. It's just he's given you everything you could have hoped for this year and so much more.
Yeah, Daysbel Hernandez got the 8th inning duty for the Braves and obviously tossed another clean inning. He's been a nice addition to the Braves bullpen here lately as well. I gave Sale maybe a bit more credit than I should have, but he's still leading the National League with nearly 7 strikeouts per walk. He's averaging just over 11 strikeouts per 9 innings and just 1.7 walks per 9, which is the lowest mark in the National League as well. So again, precision and strikeouts, those are things that Chris Sale has certainly mastered in what he's been doing in a .231 fielding independent pitching. According to Baseball Reference, coming into this start, those numbers are, I should say, that's also the best mark amongst qualified pitchers in the National League. That is certainly notable as far as Chris Sale's accomplishments are concerned, and there are quite a few of those. Unfortunately, we have to continue talking about what didn't go right for the Atlanta offense in this game, and if there was one play, and I know there were a few chances, and we've talked about some of them, none of them materialized, but Marcell Ozuna's blast in the 8th inning, how about a .730 expected batting average, a home run in 3 out of 30 parks? And I know that's not a high number, but to your point, maybe the ball rattles off the wall and some runners come across and score. Not to be, as Tommy Pham was able to make the catch. Just a frustrating day, but Another well-struck ball for the Big Bear, who in this game also drew a couple of walks.
Yeah, frustrating day for him. He and Matt Olson both have kind of cooled off a little bit here lately, but at least you're still seeing some good contact from Marcell Ozuna. It was a rough day for Matt Olson, 3 strikeouts, but in that spot, I mean, that's who you want. And he made good contact. Again, like I said, off the bat, I figured the Braves were about to go up 3-1. It's at least going to be off the wall. It's going to be a tie ball game. And Tommy Pham able to track it down kind of rather easily against the wall there. But just unfortunate because it was a great swing. Like you said, 103.3 off the bat, 24-degree launch angle. I mean, that's exactly what you want. It would have been out in 3 of 30 Park, so it wouldn't have gone out a lot. But like I said, at least get off the wall, at least get a double there. I'm sure the outfielder Tommy Pham was playing deep with Marcell Ozuna up there. But still just frustrating. Again, you don't have a lot of great swings on the day, and the couple that you do have, you don't get rewarded for. And it's not like these were balls that were right at people. I mean, Robert had to chase down Riley's ball in the gap a little bit. Pham had to run down that one, but still these balls just not able to find some grass out there. So just unfortunate. I mean, Ozuna did all he could do. It was a great swing on a good pitch away. He went with it, drove it, exactly what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Just didn't get rewarded.
Yeah, and more times than not, I feel like, maybe not, I guess, this year if we're into the conspiracy theory angle, but more times than not, when you put a swing like that on a ball, you are going to be rewarded. The numbers, the metrics say that, but the numbers and metrics don't really change the result in many or any cases. It's just kind of a predictor of performance and not a guarantee. Putting all that aside, we will talk a little bit more about one other Braves hitter who had himself a great road trip for Atlanta and is currently looking to set the tone for this offense, or at least help out in that regard. We've also got to talk a little bit about the upcoming homestand, which will see 3 teams rolling into Truist Park beginning on Friday with the first of 3 against the Pittsburgh Pirates. It comes your way next on the Braves Postcast. Summer travel is heating up, especially travel for baseball games, so it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to know more about, and that, of course, means your rival cities. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival's city. You might be an Atlanta fan heading to, say, New York to catch a game in Flushing, or maybe to the city of brotherly love to take a look at the Liberty Bell. I don't know. You might want to get that win in enemy territory at all costs, and then maybe play the role of tourist for a little while. And if you're up in New York, you might even make that drive to Cooperstown. That'd be pretty fun. I've done that. From hotels that overlook the stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com. On the site, you can also book on the Booking.com app. If you're struggling to close deals, business-to-business selling is tougher than ever for you. That's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. It's a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive revenue, and increase sales performance. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date data, first-party data at that, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial over at linkedin.com/lockedon. That is linkedin.com/lockedon for that 60-day trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Head on over to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started today. The Braves and Pirates will get started on Friday. This is the first of the 3 teams rolling into Truist Park for this 9-game homestand. 3 with the Pirates, 3 with the Giants, and then the Phillies will round out this homestand just after, I guess it would technically be Independence Day weekend, though the 4th of July is on a Thursday. Let's talk about this. As far as fireworks are concerned, Jake, the Braves need more at the plate here. After losing the past couple of games, it really took the shine off of what was really shaping up to be a nice road trip. Now the Braves find themselves in need of a bit of a bounce back.
They are. And look, you come back home, and I know we've talked about it. The offense has been better at home. It's a little bit better hitter environment there at Truist Park. So hopefully that helps gets things going. You know, we're looking for anything to help get this offense going. Maybe things get changed up in the lineup a little bit. We see some guys get some more opportunities, but this team just has to start playing better baseball more consistently. Like I said, you had the good stretch at home last time. You go to Yankee Stadium, you play a really good series there, and then you just lay a couple of duds against the Cardinals and one against the White Sox. And it's just not like this team. You just got to see better, consistent baseball day to day. And, you know, got a chance to come back home, like I said, and do that, get this offense hopefully back on track against the Pirates team that, look, you know, they're around 500, as a lot of teams in the National Leagues are, but again, I keep saying it's a team on paper, and this game's not played on paper as we saw on Thursday, but a team that you should be able to handle, and we just got to get it done. And the Braves haven't done that over the past 4 games. It's up, well, 3 of the past 4 games anyway. But want to see them get it done at home, and hopefully, being back home where they have had better offense, we can see this offense start to play up to the way it should be.
Yeah, and the way that it has been lately. Again, I don't want to put it all on the last couple of games or some of the missed opportunities. This has been improvement in the month of June, and I think if there's anybody who's been kind of the poster child for the possibilities of being able to turn things on, turn the corner, and make the most of an opportunity, it's Jarred Kelenic. If you look at the offense kind of getting back on track, the loss of Ronald Acuna Jr. was a setback. The further loss of Michael Harris II did the Braves no favors, but it opened the door for Kelenic to jump to the top of the order. I know he was 0 for 3. He drew that walk you mentioned earlier today, but look at this last month, 308 with a 900-plus OPS. And since moving to leadoff, Jake, he's batting 370. We're seeing the power manifest. I know that there's still some strikeouts in this game. There will be. I think that, at bats like the one they drew the walk on Thursday, we're going to see some more of those as he continues to mature as a hitter. But Jarred Kelenic has definitely tapped into something.
He certainly has, and he's taken made the most of this opportunity that he's gotten, which you love to see. I did a deep dive on him on the LockedOn Braves podcast on Wednesday. You want to go back and give that a listen. But one thing I really took away from that, he's not missing in the zone. His zone contact percentage has shot up significantly over the past month, and that to me says, he's going up there, he's looking for a pitch, and if he gets it in the zone, he's not missing it. And that's what obviously you want to see for any hitter. But it just seems to be more confident. And what, his game plan, obviously in his swing, they're making some mechanical adjustments with him, or they did when he first came over. And we all knew that would take some time. And, maybe him playing in more of a platoon role to start kind of allowed him to ease into that and ease into those changes. So now that he has gotten that chance and he's had some time to adjust to those changes, and now I think we are seeing some adjustments and improvements at the plate with the type of pitches that he's going after. I think there's certainly have been noticeable improvements with Jarred Kelenic, but I did mention the walk because that's the one area where he still struggled. It's still a walk percentage under 6%. And you don't necessarily want to see him have to change his game going to the leadoff spot, but you would love to see him, boost up that on-base percentage and get on base a little bit more and take some of those walks. And that was a really good slider that he took on a 3-2 pitch. And that was just really encouraging. Again, on a day where he went over 3, I still saw something that was very encouraging for Jarred Kelenic. And that's just the type of month that he's had.
And there's not like a switch that you get to flip where every single aspect and every part of your game is just going to sync up automatically, especially when I think you're trying to, for as much for him, find consistency that will lead to the results he's looking for. But I do think that, and if you go back and kind of look at his overall numbers as a minor leaguer, which again, I know, and based on the sample size in Seattle, do not necessarily say that he was, going to be able to do all of that in the big leagues, but he is a bit more complete hitter than I think we're seeing right now. And hopefully he'll continue to make those adjustments. Atlanta and Pittsburgh meeting again, second time this season. Of course, we know what happened the last time that things went on. It's going to be Charlie Morton, Max Fried, Spencer Schwellenbach to start against the Pirates, who are going to send out Martin Perez, Paul Skeens, and Bailey Falter. That's a Saturday matchup of Fried and Skeens. It's going to be must-see TV. As I mentioned last time that the Braves and Pirates squared off, not only did Atlanta lose 2 out of 3, but they also lost Ronald Acuna Jr. for the season. I think they'd like to, A, even a ledger on the season series if possible, and B, see what they can do against maybe one of the most exciting and most heralded pitching prospects we may see in our lifetime in Paul Skeens, who is making quite the impression at the big league level.
We've seen the Braves kind of rise to the occasion against good teams, good pitchers. Talk about the game they had against Tarek Skubal. So maybe this is an opportunity going up against a good young pitcher that's getting a lot of national attention in Paul Skeens. Maybe we'll see those level of at-bats creep back up a little bit. But either way, like I said earlier, you're playing a Pirates team. The Braves need to, coming back home after, having a sour taste in their mouth, the way they finished that road trip. We've been saying that way too much here this season. But coming back home, playing this Pirates team, just want to see them getting back to playing good baseball, get back to those good vibes that we had the last home standing into that Yankees series. Like you said, I don't want to focus too much on the couple of bad games in St. Louis and the one against Chicago because they were trending more in the right direction. But we need to get back in that direction here, Grant.
Yeah, need the bounce back, have played better at Truist Park. We'll look to get everything started on Friday. Charlie Morton's 4-4, 4.20 ERA for the veteran, the former Pirate himself. He'll be facing off against lefty Martin Perez, who's 1-3 with a 4.71 ERA. Friday's a 7:20 p.m. Eastern Time first pitch at Truist Park, first of the 3-game series, first of the 9-game homestand as well. And we'll talk a lot more about that as things develop over the next week and a half. That brings us to the end of this edition of the Braves Postcast. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta here on YouTube. Leave us those likes and comments, share the show with a friend, and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcasts. Unfortunately, the Braves, well, they come up short in the finale of the 7-game road trip. They'll look to get back on track this weekend against the Pirates, and we'll be back to talk to you about that here in the not-too-distant future. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. Until next time, so long, everyone.